I am Jason Abraham, Shadow Teacher 33, and I devote a good bit of my channel to the theme of human potential and manifestation and the concept that we are creators and that we possess within us a creative spark. And that spark is got the power to animate existence around us as well. But there's a trap I see when people get so caught up in the rabbit hole of creating their own existence. And you're hit sometimes with this paradox of we come in contact with circumstances in our lives that we can't explain. We want to attempt to find an explanation for these very challenging, undesirable circumstances. And we also see other people in the world, people who are truly suffering, who have it much worse than we do. And a lot of times the tendency is to want to explain it away and say for some reason it's their fault. And even when you're in your own circumstances, say it's my fault. But I can remember a time in my life when I went through a dark night of the soul, and I had some circumstances fall on me that were very painful, that diminished my capacity as a human being, and I was losing my sense of self-worth as I was facing these circumstances. And my willpower had just fucking run out. And I identified as a victim. I felt victimized through this whole time. And whether I was creating it or not, it was just something that I didn't know how to get out of. And it was through the kindness of strangers and the kindness of friends and the kindness of just other people who happened to be in my sphere, who donated time, service to me, just doing little things, little acts of kindness that they didn't have to do, that they did because they just wanted me to feel better, and they saw an innate sense of value in me as a human being, and they knew I was having a rough time, and they wanted to help me out in whatever way they could. And I think about this too when we have an issue where we have people who don't have homes, have people who are out on the streets, people who are suffering from mental illness and addictions and all these circumstances in their life that are very hard to get out of. And I remember, I think it was Bishop Barron, a Catholic bishop who has a YouTube channel, a great YouTube channel. And I heard him on a podcast, and he's talking about giving money to the homeless. And when someone asks for his money, he says, sure, I'll give you something, but could you do something for me as well? And he would always ask the person who he gives money to ask them to pray for him. And they would say, you're a Catholic bishop. What can I do that could ever make a difference for you? How can my prayers ever make a difference for you? And he says, believe me, it does. We all need prayer, and your prayer and your intention would be a great service of me for me today, and I'd really appreciate it. It would really help me out. So when he did that, when he would give them the money and ask for them to pray for him, he essentially helped someone who felt worthless start to have a sense of value and contribution. They were able to give him something in need as well. And that's how a lot of people feel. That's how I felt when I was in that dark place. I felt worthless. My self-esteem was low. And I think there's just something to this of when you're in a position to give, when someone is in need, and you could also help that person, in a sense, recover a bit of self-worth, like in a time of darkness. But regardless, there's just something to this concept of tidings, of giving a percentage. When you're in abundance, giving some of that to somebody who is not so fortunate in the appropriate way. And that doesn't really get talked about enough. And I fully believe there is a law of abundance and prosperity that's that's connected to giving something away with no strings attached. And again, the idea of asking someone to pray for you, that's really not for you. It is for you. We all need prayer. But the idea was helping restore someone's sense of feeling they're contributing, that they have a sense of self-worth. I thought that was a beautiful thing. And when I have spare dollars in my pocket and someone asks me for some money on the streets, I've been practicing that. And a lot of times it ends up in a conversation. A lot of times people, and it's not all the time. There are times where I just don't want to be bothered and I got places to be. But sometimes I would have these conversations with people who are in these circumstances, and I would just like to hear their story. And we have a moment of connection there. And the thing too, when I did this, I'm telling this story now, but this is not to baby face myself. This is not to virtue signal. This is not about me. It's about a principle and a concept. And usually when I do these things, I don't tell anybody. It's just something that I'm doing when I have an abundance to give, and I feel it's the right thing at the right time. And that's the spirit of where this needs to come from. Not so you can post it all over social media and tell everyone how good of a person you are for giving away stuff to people in need. It's not about you baby facing yourself and making that legacy and that philanthropic legacy for the sake of the world, for society looking at you as a good person. In fact, a lot of times I like the opposite. I like it when people see me as the bad guy. I don't really like to tell people about that stuff because it hurts my image as being a renegade. That identity that I'm guilty of clinging to a little bit. But that being said, I am going to end this transmission. Know that you are a blessing when you share your blessings and when you remind other people of their own value and the blessing that's inside of them, especially when they're in a dark place and have forgotten that. And with that being said, I'm going to end this transmission, and I'll see you on the other side. Be well.